Today is the second Sunday of Lent, the Samaritan women. The Gospel reading today may be familiar to many of you. Jesus meeting the Samaritan woman at the well. As a little background, Samaria was north of Jerusalem, the seat of Orthodox Judaism. The enmity between the Jews and their northern neighbors is ancient, bitter, entrenched. They disagree about just about everything, especially where to worship. By then, the physical center of Judaism was Jerusalem, the holy city. It was anathema to the Samaritans. Then the Samaritan is a woman, and it is not appropriate for Jesus to speak alone with a Samaritan woman, much less to ask her for a drink of water. So as you read this story, add in your imagination, why was Jesus alone? Why was the woman alone without other women from the nearby village? What do you make of her having been married 5 times already? Why does she even offer water to the thirsty traveler whose beliefs are so different from hers? John 4:5-42. So he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Joseph's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting alone by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria?" Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband.' For you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." Just then his disciples came. They were astonished that was even speaking with a woman, but no one said, "What do you want?" or "Why are you speaking with her?" Then the woman left her water jar and went back to the city. She said to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. He cannot be the Messiah, can he?" Many Samaritans from that city believed in him because of the woman's testimony. "He told me everything I have ever done." So when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him to stay with them, and he stayed there 2 days, and many more believed because of his word. They said to the woman, "It is no longer because of what you said that we believe, for we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this is the world." So think a moment about the conclusions you might have reached about the woman. The usual interpretation of this encounter has assumed a lot of things about her. She came alone because she was an outcast. Maybe she was even a prostitute, a harlot. The other women frowned on her because of her living situation, or that she had 5 husbands, 5, and the one she was living with. But perhaps the problem wasn't with the narrative itself. It was the way in which preachers often mistreated its central character, and unknowingly always carried along by their words of judgment. It was only as I began studying the story in preparation for this homily that I noticed what's actually clear in the text. Nowhere in the account is she described as promiscuous. Nowhere does Jesus call her a sinner, sexual or otherwise, or tell her, as he tells so many others, go and sin no more. This is not a story about morality at all. It is a story about Jesus revealing himself as the Messiah to a fellow human being in whom he sees openness and a genuine spiritual hunger. It is the Samaritan woman, not Mary Magdalene, who first preaches the good news to her fellow townspeople. And just as Mary Magdalene, their roles have been minimized and misinterpreted in the next 2 millennia, not as the first apostles, but sinners in need of saving. Instead, we find the longest recorded conversation in the New Testament. The first person and the first ethnic religious outsider to whom Jesus reveals his full identity in John's Gospel. The first believer in any of the Gospels has straightaway become an evangelist. The Samaritan woman is the other, the alien, the heretic, the stranger, the foreigner. She represents all of the boundaries that must not be transgressed in the religious life, all the spiritual taboos that must not be broken. But Jesus transgresses and breaks them all anyway. This rings true for me. I have a very close friend in Kenya, a lesbian activist with children who is also a Christian. He has just graduated from college with a degree in women's studies and gender studies. Yet both the Kenyan government and Christian churches have become increasingly homophobic. Here is the latest statement from Archbishop Anthony Muheria on this issue. It is very unfortunate that our leaders have decided to trade the soul of our nation, legalizing homosexuality in exchange for some little donations from the West. Like Esau, we have sold our birthright to the U.S. and the U.K. I pray for Kenya's redemption. May God have mercy. This African friend I have known for almost 4 years. During that time, she managed to finish her baccalaureate degree, having to fight homophobia and misogyny by the professors to write the dissertation she wanted to write. She got through more than a year of COVID, floods, drought, inflation, with 2 small children who could not even go to school to support. She sheltered her neighbor and her 4 children for a very long time because of volatile domestic violence situation in the home with no plumbing, lavatory, or refrigerator. She sheltered her own sister and her children when her husband kicked her out. She went door to door to collect data for the church worldwide service about homeless LGBT people needing shelter and support. She and other LGBT people have initiated meetings with Christian churches to speak about how they can support them. She has found the courage to speak out to her whole family about the abuse their entitled mother and brother keeps inflicting on them, including being beaten in front of her children, having her children tossed out of the family home to fend for themselves when she was gone. She survived having men from the village stand outside her home to call her names and threaten her life. She took in a gay man from Uganda who had fled for his life. Wow, I wish she were my neighbor. The only ones we have in the small town of Glenwood did not have time in the last 13 years to even have coffee with us, and reported our yard to the city for it was not up to their standards. Guess whom I would choose to be my neighbor, if I could? Guess whom I would nominate as a true believer of the path of Jesus? The one who would not even share a cup of coffee with us the last 12 years, or a woman whose tears I share from across continents, and who follows the way of Jesus every day under incredible pressure on all fronts, despite its risks. So who might that Samaritan woman in your life be? Someone whom you have disregarded, judged prematurely and probably harshly? Every Sunday we can recite all the creeds and sing all the hymns we love while sitting next to people very like us. It would be comfortable, supportive, unchallenging. But time and time again, as the gospel shows us, Jesus broke the barriers, sitting with tax collectors, having close women friends, welcoming those whom society had condemned as sinners, outcasts, undesirables, constantly being challenged and attacked by the self-righteous Pharisees of his day. So don't just sit there, get off your pews and go out into the world with welcoming arms and hearts. You'll be surprised at the lives you can change. It might be something simple, something as opening a door for a stranger, helping them carry their bags, greeting the beggars and clerks by names, smiling, and surprise. You will change their lives, but the real surprise is that you will change your own more. Today, as Cheryl and I were having our business meeting in a crowded restaurant, I noticed a woman that I had seen before, an elderly woman who came in with a cane and was very hunched over to one side. She managed to get in and sit down on her own, but she had her cane and her purse and other things, and was about to get up to try to hobble to the place where they could order something. So because I was having hearing loss issues, I sent my disciple, Cheryl, across to talk with her and offer to get it for her. So Cheryl did, and walked and got her a very large drink and brought it back to her and put it down so she didn't have to try to struggle back with it and maybe spill it. And then as we got ready to go, I noticed the woman, who had a beautiful smile, kept looking at us, and she actually got up again, which was a struggle, hobbled across to our table and thanked us profusely. And as we left, I stopped at her table and asked her name, Sharon, and Cheryl and I introduced ourselves. And it was an epiphany for all of us, I think. And so all this day I've been thinking back to that simple encounter that just took a moment of our lives. And I think I will keep thinking of it, as hopefully she has done for the rest of the day. So please, get off your pews.